Hello and welcome! Rather than talking about a specific series today, I wanted to recommend 5 isekai that I think are the best ones that do not yet have an anime adaptation. The first two I've already done videos on, so I won't go too in-depth with them. I will post links to those videos, so feel free to check them out. The first one is I'm the Evil Lord of an Intergalactic Empire by the same author as Trapped in a Dating Sim, The World of Otome Games is Tough for Mobs. If you enjoyed that anime, you'll enjoy this series even more. The writing is wonderful, the main character is delightful, and the jokes just don't stop. It's a science fantasy isekai where magic and technology exist side by side. So you have some of the familiar tropes found in other isekai series, but there's also some new ones. If you want to know more, you can buy the series on Bookwalker or just watch my more in-depth review. Next up, reborn as a space mercenary, I woke up piloting the strongest starship. Like the first entry on our list, this is another sci-fi isekai. Even though we have the familiar elves and catgirls, we also have robot maids and space battles. If you're wanting a hard sci-fi series with a lot of scientifically accurate technological explanations, this ain't it. If you're wanting something that is a blast to read with fun and interesting characters, this one is great. But now we can talk about the series I haven't done videos on. Legend is a series that started as a web novel about a decade ago. The web novel has over 3,000 chapters to it, and it has been published into 17 light novels. The manga version is up to volume 12 in Japan, but there hasn't been an official English release as of yet. It appears that the publisher is a subsidiary of Kodansha, so we might get one in the future. I'll update the video description if it happens. Okay, so this is an older isekai, which means it's got a lot of the tropes we've gotten used to. Kid dies, winds up in a new world with new powers. You've got the Adventurers Guild, hot girls trying to get in his pants, a loyal animal companion, and an overpowered main character. Pretty much standard stuff for an isekai. But the difference here, and what hooked me on the series, is that it quickly gets to the point that his power doesn't matter. Let me explain. Rather than getting truck-cooned, Reiji, our main character, died when a load of steel beams fell on him. He also wasn't summoned by a god, but rather by the remaining spirit of a mage who had died centuries ago. The mage was concerned that there was no one who had his aptitude for magic. Beast magic, as he called it. So at the end of his life, he created a summoning spell to bring a dying person to his world in order to reincarnate them as a homunculus. Reiji readily accepts. Reiji wakes in his new body and realizes it's basically immortal. He can already tell how much stronger and more durable his new body is, especially compared to his frail human frame he had before. Apparently, he's in some kind of cabin far from civilization, and so he decides to check out the rest of the cabin. He finds a door sealed to any who aren't beast mages, and opens it. Inside is a magical laboratory with a massive circle on the ground. Instinctively, Reiji activates the circle and summons a griffin, who he names Set. Set and Reiji have a few adventures, join the local Adventurers Guild, and accomplish a few feats, making names for themselves. Soon enough, he's summoned to the mansion of the local lord. Even though he's only still a D-ranked adventurer, everyone knows he's the strongest person in town. Additionally, in all the time Reiji's been in town, he hasn't once caused problems or had a single complaint lodged against him. And now he's been tasked with escorting a duke's daughter through a dungeon so that she can complete a secret mission. Now, up until this point, Reiji has met a lot of women and could easily have started a harem. With this being an older isekai, I fully expected that to happen. What I love about this series is that the duke's daughter, Princess Elena, is the only love interest so far. Additionally, in my opinion, marriages are better when the characters are equal. You want a marriage where both people bring something valuable to the relationship, shoring up each other's weaknesses, as it were. The ritual that Elena goes through ensures that she will be at least as strong and also as long-lived as Reiji. I'm excited to see where their relationship goes, as well as how they will work together in the future. Additionally, the challenges Reiji starts encountering are not kill the monsters, but instead things along the line of investigate the cause of the monster stampede, or discover the cause of the plague the next town over. He has to use his brain instead of his magic and his muscles to solve problems. He starts being thrown into the middle of political machinations where he can't just kill everyone involved, not without legal consequences. And with the town he calls home being a border town and a hostile nation just on the other side of the nearby mountain range, the stage is set for all sorts of challenges for our hero. Next up on the list is another series that started as a web novel, got picked up as a light novel, and then adapted into a manga. The title for this one translates to, "I'm a NEET, but when I went to Hello Work, I got taken to another world." Masaru is a 23-year-old NEET. NEET is a term many of you may be familiar with, but to explain it to those who don't, it roughly means not employed, educating, or training. In other words, it's someone who brings no value to society. Determined to show his parents that he's at least looking for a job, he goes to a job hunting agency. No resume in hand, wearing casual clothes, but he does register for work. Shockingly, he gets invited to an interview. As it turns out, Ito, the god of another world, realizes his world will be destroyed in 20 years, and decides to send Masaru to do something about it. He doesn't tell Masaru that he needs to save the world or anything. He just tells him that he's going to be a tester, and to try out the skill system. And so, Masaru finds himself in a new world. On his way to town, he's attacked by a horned rabbit. After killing it and feeling accomplished that he's defeated his first monster, a horde of horned rabbits appear. Apparently, horned rabbits are normally timid and tend to hide, but they willfully attack beings they consider weaker than themselves. Eventually, Masaru gains the nickname of Rabbit Slayer from the Adventurers Guild, meant as a playful insult. Masaru does eventually grow stronger, but it's not just gaining levels like in many isekai. He does have to overcome the trauma of almost dying, as well as the realization that even though he's got tons of experience playing RPGs, this is reality. If he dies here, it's over. Being told that you're going to die is one thing. Ito told him that at the beginning. But being faced with your own mortality after being mauled by a monster is completely different. Fortunately for Masaru, the girls in his harem help him recover, both physically and mentally, and they all grow stronger for it. Yes, this series does have a harem, but unlike many other series where the main character just happens to wind up with a bevy of beautiful babes, Masaru builds a relationship with each of the women. Additionally, polygamy is not only not taboo, it's common. Most men have 2 or 3 wives. The reason for this is the more dangerous professions, soldiering, adventuring, mining, are mostly made up of men. And so there are fewer men to go around. That's not to say there aren't any women soldiers or adventurers, but the majority of these professions are made up of men. And what is a solution to having more women than men? More wives, of course. I really appreciated this tidbit of world building. This series is delightful, with a lot of lighthearted moments and some genuine comedy. And because most of the series is a lighthearted romp, the dark moments are made all the darker. That sudden shift from light and dark to stark and terrifying is shocking, but also what makes the series so good. You want to see Masaru and his wives happy, but hanging over all of it is the knowledge that Masaru possesses, that the world will end in 20 years. Finally, we come to the last one on our list, and one that's been a personal favorite of mine for a long time. Mao ni Nata Node, Dungeon Sukate Jingai Musume to Honobo Suru. Sorry if I butchered that. Or, I became the Demon Lord, so I created a dungeon and spent heartwarming time there with non-human girls. Imagine getting truck-cooned into a castle. You're all alone. The room is empty save for a throne and a single orb. Touching the orb brings you pain, and with that pain comes knowledge. You use your newfound knowledge to summon up a menu. You see that your race is no longer human. Instead, you're an archdemon, and your class is Demon Lord. In this world, Demon Lords are tied to dungeons, and that crystal orb you touched is your core. The stronger you get, the more dungeon points you acquire, the stronger your dungeon is. You have access to skills, can spend points on items, or even use the gacha system if you're feeling lucky. After a day of studying the menu system, you decide to take a nap. The next day, after using the dungeon point system to summon breakfast, you decide to explore this new world you found yourself in. You step outside, only to discover a dragon is about to end your existence. All of these things happen to our protagonist, Yuki. There he is, grateful to be reincarnated after his sudden tragic death at the hands of Truck-kun. And now he's about to be incinerated the first time he steps outside. Not just any dragon either. Yuki uses his skills to see the dragon's status. Race? Ancient Dragon. Class? Supreme Dragon. Level? 987. That's a whole lot higher than his level 1. So how do you survive when the Supreme Dragon, a being capable of casually destroying mountains, wants to kill you? You tame them with chocolate, of course. But Yuki is worried about his ability to summon enough chocolate to satisfy a dragon. Fortunately, Lephaseos, the aforementioned dragon, can transform into a human. Mostly. You give her your shirt, and she understandably puts it on. After all, she can't have you assaulting her because you lust after her alluring figure, can she? Yuki decides to call Lephaseos Leffy, and she decides that he's an interesting person for a demon lord. She then decides that she's going to stay with him. Yuki is, understandably, a little scared by this prospect, but Leffy decides to use her most devastating attack yet, and it's super effective. And so, on this second day in a new world, the Supreme Dragon, Lephaseos, has decided to move into Yuki's dungeon as a freeloader. But, as the title suggests, he winds up spending wholesome and heartwarming time with a whole bunch of girls. And only one of them is actually human. Sort of. There's a slime girl, a vampire, 2 beast girls, one from the werewolf tribe and the other from the ramshorn tribe, a living sword, as well as a trio of prank-loving ghosts. The series reads more like a slice of life with some action elements. There is romance, of course, and a harem. But Leffy winds up being the main girl in the series. Which is only right and proper. Not only is she a dragon, she's also best girl. Yuki spends most of his time creating things. Weapons, clothes, food, toys for the kids to play with, board games, a bathhouse. He even creates a replica Anor Londo to serve as his demon castle. Not that anyone actually lives in that castle, of course. The real throne room is the original room he first appeared in, along with a kitchen and some other rooms for the girls to sleep in. The thing I love about this series is watching Yuki grow stronger so that he can stand by Leffy's side. He comes to find out that he's basically immortal, and with time, could grow as strong as her. But that's a long way off. But just being her match isn't his only reason for growing stronger. A few chapters in, Yuki saves a young vampire girl named Urana, and basically adopts her. He found her wounded and alone deep in the Wicked Forest, an ancient and dense forest filled with dangerous and powerful monsters surrounding the mountain in which his dungeon lay. Heals her, and brings her home. A few months later, while out playing, Urana was once again kidnapped. Leffy, who had also grown fond of the young vampire girl, calls in her allies, and the poor human city outside of the Wicked Forest suddenly has its skies darkened by a flight of dragons. Yuki finds the slavers who kidnapped her and proceeds to slaughter the entire organization, freeing the slaves in the process. He then turns his murderous gaze on the guards in the city, but is stopped by Leffy, who holds him tight and reminds him of who he is. Leffy doesn't give a crap about humans. In fact, she's pretty upset with them for violating their ancient treaty and allowing bounty hunters to enter the Wicked Forest. But she knows it would destroy Yuki if he killed an entire town. Killing slavers and people who kidnap children? Wicked people like that need killing, so no issues there. But what happens when the king's son hears about the ancient dragon, as well as a new demon lord threatening one of their border towns? How will he respond? If you want to find out, you'll have to read it yourself. Now for the bad news. Both Space Mercenary and Evil Lord are available on Bookwalker or in print. You can get the light novel version of Evil Lord at this time, but there is also a manga that's being translated. I'll have links to both Amazon and Bookwalker for the respective series, so you could pick them up yourself. But the other 3 don't have an official translation as of yet. So if you're wanting to see Reiji and Set go on adventures, or Masaru and his harem race to save the Elven Kingdom, or Yuki spending heartwarming days in the dungeon with Leffy and the girls, you'll have to find fan copies. For now, at least. If that changes, I'll update the description below. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cute Stuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, there's a link to her Fiverr page below. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you want to support this channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon, or click the link in the description below. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Musings by Danon.